In less than 36 hours to go, and Cowboys owner Jerry Jones met with the media yesterday, said Dallas is working on pretty substantive trades regarding players ahead of the draft. When asked, he said they were taking calls with teams but wouldn't offer specifics. In other news, Colin, Micah Parsons has shown up to voluntary offseason workouts while seeking a contract extension.
Interesting.
Jerry Jones talking about trades. Micah Parsons, who could have easily just sat this out, said, I don't have a contract, I'm not showing up.
Dallas, to me, if you want to catch up to Philadelphia in your own division, forget the AFC, forget the other teams. Dallas does not have a top 10 roster. Not a top 10 roster.
They're not a top 10 team in the NFC, Colin.
But
you could go through it. It's just not good.
So to me, I don't even think it's debatable. I've said before, I would move off Micah. I would trade down in the draft. They need 12 draft picks and hit on about 8 of them. And all of a sudden in the NFL, that's what's great about it. It's not baseball where you have to wait for a guy in the minors. If you go hit on 7 or 8 draft picks, that could be 6 starters. And all of a sudden you look up and you're like, okay, now Dak's contract doesn't matter as much because we got 6 guys from the second round on that can play.
And they have drafted well over the last few years. That being said, who's trading for Micah Parsons, giving up picks, and then paying the guy top dollar for his position?
I think Mike could have a market.
Okay. I'm not getting into tinfoil hat theories of trying to predict what these substantive trades that the Cowboys are working on. I'm not playing that. I'm not playing that game, quite frankly. But honestly, when you look at the Cowboys, like Colin kind of said, what they got to do to catch up to the Philadelphia Eagles. And like it or not, Dallas Cowboys fans, you are playing catch up because the Eagles just won a Super Bowl. They've been to multiple Super Bowls in the last 3 years and have won 2 Super Bowls since Dak Prescott got drafted. That's the reality. And so I know it's a frustrating thing to accept, but it is the actual reality. But I don't even see it as that necessarily, as like you have to catch up. If anything, I would almost concede, hey, you know what? Philadelphia Eagles are going to be really, really good. They have like majority of the core of this team locked up until, 2026, 27, 28. These next 2-3 years will most likely be the Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to be a top contender. We have a new coach. We got a lot of moving parts right now. I would be looking more on a long-term horizon and not being like, how do we be a Super Bowl contender next season? I just would not look at it like that in this moment of time. And so like I would be so much more open to having the Dallas Cowboys blow this thing up. The problem is that I think your new original sin is the coaching hire. Like that to me is the problem, because you could have brought in a Harbaugh or Ben Johnson, and then you literally could have just started from fresh. You could have just started brand new. You could have traded off Dak Prescott, Micah. I mean, like seriously, you could have just unloaded this whole thing and just said, we are starting brand new. We are ushering in a new era for the Dallas Cowboys. And before people say like, oh my God, that's crazy. It's like, well, like you haven't done anything. You haven't done anything in 30 years. And you haven't done anything with Dak Prescott either. And I'm not saying you have to get rid of Dak Prescott. Like I'm not saying that, but I just meant like you could have made very, very, very bold moves with your roster and just started new. And again, use the Eagles as an example. They fired their coach, hired a new one, got rid of their quarterback who they paid at that point, $150 million, brought up Jalen Hurts, and then within the second season went to the Super Bowl. And then 2 years after that, won the Super Bowl. So it's not always a bad move just to be like, we are truly hitting the reset button. We're bringing a new coach, new quarterback, new everything. Sometimes that is the move that needs to be made. And so, but you need to have the organization to be able to do it. You need to have the GM and the ownership and the coach in place to be able to set this thing up. And, that obviously is the big question mark with the Dallas Cowboys. And they do draft very well. They've always drafted very well. That is the one thing that you definitely have to give credit to the Dallas Cowboys. So then use that as an advantage. Use that to your advantage. It's just Colin talks about, hey, if you can get a lot of young talent in there and you have Dak as your quarterback, then it doesn't make that contract as bad. That's all well and good. But this whole idea of that you still need a great coach to lead the way. You still need a great coach who can then help develop this young talent and put this young talent in positions to succeed. And now there's a real question mark of whether or not that's true. And again, if you move on from Micah, okay, you get some draft picks and now you can draft, but you're still going to be in a position where you're trying to find your next Micah. So like it still just ends up being a weird decision. Not a weird decision, but a weird situation for the Dallas Cowboys. Honestly, to me, it just feels like they're just a textbook case of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Honestly, I really see it that way. They just end up being a textbook damned if you do, damned if you don't. And it's so hard for me to envision that Dak Prescott with this coaching staff is going to be able to lead a young, cheap team to the promised land with a questionable coach at best. I don't see that happening. And so the question is then it's like, okay, but then like, how do we win? How do we win with a $200 million Dak Prescott? How do we win in that situation? And better coaching, an elite defense, and a monster run game. And that's that. Dak Prescott has never been shown to be reliable in the playoffs when you put the game on his shoulders. Not once. Truly not once. When the moments really mattered, when the pressure was on, when the walls were closing in, not a random blowout victory, not a random week 7, game against the, Carolina Panthers. Not when you're already down by 20 in the fourth quarter, and now it's just, prevent defense. It's like, let this team at this point with Dak should have been a defensive-led team. You get a suffocating defense that is keeping teams to like 17, 18, 19 points a game. You have a monster run game that's getting the ball 25 times a game. And then there you go. That's how this team should have been built. The problem is now you're going to move on from Micah, and now you're going to have to like get these young guys. Like you're now going to be trading away one of your defensive engines, though. You're the defensive engine, and you're going to have to now try to find the replacements. And it just gets a little weird. And then now you're going to try to do that with essentially a defensive coordinator. And now you're going to be, it's just like, okay, it would have been different if it was Dan Quinn or if Dan Quinn was your head coach. Like, that's also what the Cowboys then should have done at that point. They could have just moved on from Mike McCarthy and then made Dan Quinn their head coach. Again, made this be a defensive-led team. And then you let Dan Quinn pull the strings. So there was different variations of doing this. And it's kind of crazy because they could have actually just done it even last year. They could have literally done it last season. They could have moved on from Mike McCarthy, made Dan Quinn the head coach. They could have went out and got Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry. Boom, there you go. They could have, they would have upgraded on defense. They would have upgraded on with their running back. I mean, like that is right there. And then this year, you continue to draft and fill in the pieces, fill in the gaps that you need. A wide receiver, whatever it may be. Boom. There you go. There you have it. But they didn't do that. And now I just feel like they're just kind of in this damned if they do, damned if they don't situation. And when the path is not clear, and this is why it's always so funny. Oh, I'm taking calls, but I'm not going to let you know what it is. Well, obviously, like This is all just nonsense. And even any of the big moves that they could make, I'm just like not convinced it would work out for them because of what they have in place right now. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Dallas Cowboys working on some pretty big trades, says team. Team is taking calls. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.